It wasn't like a solid being. And I could see like the objects through him. I'm Cherokee, Eastern Band Cherokee, but I associate with the Lakota Blue Mountain. And in this part of Washington, I'm a member of the what they call the Three Mountain Clan. They include Tahoma, Lawelala, and Patu. That's the original names of Rainier, St. Helens, and Adams. My name is Howard W. Clark, nickname Howie. Most people call me that. I'm a firm believer in Sasquatch myself. I don't necessarily be things I haven't seen. I don't dismiss them, but I don't say that it is. But I have seen Sasquatch, and I'm a firm believer that there is such a person, and nobody can convince me otherwise. Had I not seen it, maybe not. But that I have seen on an occasion, well, I'm quite a firm believer. The red road and the black road means your life is in red road, your life is in balance. Black road, your life is out of balance. Now, if a person is feeling good, doesn't have any emotional problems, well, then that person is on the red road. And if some reason one's not feeling quite right, then they could be bordering on the black road. So I try to stay in balance as much as possible, because that's the whole purpose in life is to walk that red road, and try not to get on the black road, because that's like an addiction. It could be hard to shake. So try to stay on the red road as much as I can. I related my stories to Grandpa Al Cliff, who was the chief of the Blue Mountain Sundance, and he's the one that told me that I was walking on the red road. And I also had another confirmation was when I went to Sweat Lodge. I saw squares of light halfway around about halfway up around the lodge. And it's totally dark in there except for the stones that are being used to make the sweat. And so I could see squares of light, square, 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 square. And also a gentleman was sitting right in front of me, about that far from the hole where the stones were. And I could see him. I could not see anyone else because it's so dark, but I could see this one gentleman. So when I related that story to Grandpa, he said, you were on the red road. It was approximately 2 years ago. I was on my way to Fort Lewis, and I went up Highway 7 and took, I believe it's 507, which is also known as a Roy Highway. And there was a line of cars, but both directions were at least 200 car lengths away from me. And all of a sudden, I was just going along, and I saw this apparition walking across the highway. And I knew right away that was Sasquatch, because I'd seen pictures, and he just kind of looked at my direction, but I couldn't tell if he's looking exactly at me or just in my direction. And I said, well, that's interesting. And I know nobody else saw it because if they had cars coming this way toward me, would have probably run off the road. So that's me. That it was my sighting and my sighting only. And I said, "Oh, okay." And then I related that story to Grandpa as well, and he said, "You were definitely on the red road at the time." So it wasn't like a solid being, and I could see like the objects through him, but it was definitely a real being, as far as I'm concerned. And it was just took about 3 steps, and he was across the road, and it confirmed my belief in Sasquatch. So that way, when somebody says, I doubt that, well, I was there, I saw it. And it made me feel more whole as a person to have seen it and to know that not everybody in the world sees it. And I guess I could say I was blessed to have actually seen Sasquatch. If you're thinking about looking for Sasquatch, don't. You don't find him, he finds you. And I've never looked for him, so I've never been disappointed or anything like that. So, but I have. He seeked me out for some reason, even though for just a brief moment. So.
My name is Rick Wiesa. I'm from Eatonville, Washington, but I was originally I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I got out of the Army here in '81 and have been here ever since. I had a little brother that was in a Sasquatch group. I like to call them a research group, but they were more like just go out for the weekend and hang out in an area, and they were partiers, actually. They'd build a big bonfire, and they'd bring out, alcohol and stuff. So they were more out there just to get out and about and get away from people. But my brother was really into Sasquatch. And that's how I got started. I got interested just hanging out with them and everything. We're from Native background, so I've heard stories and read stories and really into the cultural thing, and I've heard people talk about them. I want to believe, so that's why I went from a believer to a knower, is by hanging out there and seeing all the interest in it. And it has to be real if so many people are interested. And there was places where people had built dugouts where they spent the weekend out there lying in wait just so they could make contact. So that's how I got really interested. I did spend a lot of time in the woods, climbed a Mount Rainier and things like that, and I just love the outdoors, and really want to believe that there's other creatures out there. And I'd say my very first feeling was the feeling that someone's watching you. I hear a lot of that talked about as you're out in the woods and you just have this feeling that something's watching you or following you. And that's how it all began with me. So that just piqued my interest even more. And I started going out in the woods, and there was just a lot of stuff happening that you just really can't explain. So thanks to the internet, I was introduced to, people like yourself, speakers and presenters. And the first real person, she was holding a seminar on how to actually communicate with Sasquatch. And I'd never seen or heard that, of anybody share that. So I went to that, it was in Port Angeles at their Bigfoot festival, I think Sasquatch. And she said the basic language is glyphs. And I'd never thought of that. And I said, well, what's glyph? And they said, well, tree branches, rocks, little rocks, whatever. Just go out in the woods and just whatever you feel, is how they want to communicate with you. So that's how I first started. That was maybe 2-3 years ago when I really drew me in, is I went out and put out glyphs and they answered me back, but I needed her to interpret it because she says a lot of times she doesn't even know what they're trying to convey or communicate to her. So she interpreted it for me and it hit right home. She said, pick out a glyph for you that represents you and then one for them. And usually one with a little knot in it that represents your heart and their heart. And then you just put them at the base of a tree because they use tree energy. So I placed them, and since I'm impatient, it took about 2 weeks because you got to be, because I'm like, give me a sign. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. They work in their time. And I went back out there and she told me to take a picture and we weren't really getting much. So next time I went out there was a leaf in the shape of a heart that had white outline on it. And I didn't notice it at first, but she picked up on it right away. She says, they're telling you, to have a pure heart. And that's, you're in. Basically, you're in there, on their side now, as far as communication went. So I've been hooked ever since. And I'm kind of disabled, so I can't hike a lot. But she said, oh, that doesn't matter. They'll come to you, if your intent is right. Well, the latest one was actually in my room at my house. I had a dream or a vision of a blonde Sasquatch. My tribe actually calls them Sabe. And that gal that taught me the glyphs, she comes from the Sabe. She would correct me like, it's not Sasquatch, Bigfoot, it's Sabe. And then my tribe, which is Ojibwe from Michigan, they have stories from the elders about Sabe. So I got this blonde little doll from Bass Pros. So I dreamed about it. And I said, oh, maybe I'm going to see one. That's how they're going to present themselves. So I was looking forward to that. And then I go to Bass Pros to do shopping. And there on display for sale was a blonde Sasquatch. And see, I believe in synchronicity now, because now we're talking about there's nothing is coincidental. Everything's for a reason. And so I purchased it, and I had it at home just a couple weeks ago. And I just got this inkling to take a picture of it, and put on my Facebook and say, see, they're real. And people, out of sarcasm, Rick, that's a doll. But so I put it on my pillow, and I have a dream catcher that my aunt made me with the wolf and moon, because I'm Wolf Clan on my dad's side. So I took that in the picture, and my phone has never done this before. It turned into a video, plus it had background music, which I had no idea where that background music came from. And it's like, well, they will manifest. They're at a higher level than we are, and they have the ability, because she had said they'll come to you now that you've made contact with them, and they'll stay with you, that they've adopted you into their family, and now you're theirs. I don't know if I'm quite ready to see the real thing, because she has, and she says they're huge. And it did kind of put her back when the one presented it, because he was like 10 feet tall and just, 1,000 pounds, just solid muscle, and I've seen gorillas, I've seen grizzly bears, and like bigger than that, so, but I don't fear them, because I don't feel that they have ill intent, that they're aggressively or a predator or whatever. Even though I carry because of the humans, because you see and hear so many stories about, just people randomly. So that's the only reason I carry, is to protect myself from the evil humans, not so much the wildlife. Because I couldn't kill, I've used to hunt. I can't even hunt no more. I just can't kill an animal. And I don't consider them animals anymore. I consider them all people, just like the Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Sabe is just people. I hate it when people call them creatures, animals, monsters, whatever. It's like, no, they're not. They're just people like us. They're just different, different species. Well, you hear of these violent encounters, and I still have some question because I don't feel it from them anytime I encounter them or I feel like I would like to chat with them or whatever. I don't feel any ill intent whatsoever, so I'm having a hard time. Is that a different? And I hear there's another guy that spent 18 years out in the bush up in British Columbia, and he says there are rogue ones that are very aggressive, and those you really have to stay away from. And I could see that because humans, we have angry humans full of rage, and so maybe that's what it is that they're just angry because something happened to them or whatever, and they just can't, they just don't want you to come in their area. Let's go back to the beginning because I forgot this story is my mom worked for the Puyallup tribe, and I was curious about a sweat lodge. I had never experienced it, and I was in my 30s or 40s. And I asked my mom to ask the tribe if they have a sweat lodge that we could maybe attend. And it's funny is she got directed to the Muckleshoot tribe, which is a local tribe, and that they knew of a guy that has a sweat. He was a medicine man, Indian George. So we agreed to go up there. And when I went up there, I went up there early enough because he said, show up early because we got to get the fire going, get the stones all heated up. And so when I went up there, he was shirtless and he had these round scars on his chest. And I knew that was a piercing ceremony. So I was afraid that I didn't know much about it. And I go, is that a rite of manhood or a warrior or whatever? And he asked me my tribe, and I told him Ojibwe. He says, no, that's not a ceremony, your tribe. And he suggested that you don't participate in any ceremony. That's because you just messing with stuff that you don't really understand and maybe not your way. So we had to sweat, and my mom was with me, and where you go in the lodge, and then each time they pray about something. And we were praying, and the medicine man was calling in the spirits. And my mom was outside the lodge, and when he was calling in the spirits, I guess they experienced the spirits coming through the forest, the trees. And my mom was saying that the trees, branches were hitting like 10 feet in the air, and scared her enough that she wanted to go in the lodge. She was worried about the heat. She couldn't take the heat. And the medicine man was explaining it's not about the heat. If you have the right intention, pure of heart, the heat's not going to affect you. It's just a cleansing, a purification, and that's what I was there for. So, so she was talking to us after that happened. And she came back in the next lodge because she didn't want to be outside. But he just did it the one session. But he says, oh, that's Sasquatch spirit coming in. And what's funny is it's a dirt floor, and for the most part, you sit cross-legged, and I can't sit cross-legged. So I was on my knees, and something kept pushing me toward the rocks. Pushed me right over the heat, which I didn't have a problem with. And I asked the medicine man, just joking with him, I said, what was pushing on me? He says, oh, that was a spirit just letting you know you need some deep cleansing, like you would go to confessional or whatever. And I believe everybody's got their religious beliefs and the way they handle things. And I've just been so blessed with everything. And now with Sabe, I believe they're a higher being, and that a lot of the stories are saying they're here to help us. And I truly believe that. So, I just look forward to more. That's why I come to these, because you're just drawing them more in, because your intent's getting even purer and purer, and they're gonna hopefully reach out and communicate with me at some point. Well, because I've heard people talk about that, because that gal says they communicate with her. They either mind speak or through their heart, and she has vocalizations, and there's one basic language like clicking. They do it in Africa, and she says that's a basic language, and she had clicking where they click from their throat or something. It's like, man, I hoped, but you will hear it eventually, as long as they get more comfortable with you and don't scare you and freak you out, So that's what I'm looking forward to. Last summer, I went up to the Macaw Days, end of August, which is right around my birthday, and I went to a glamping site, which is canvas wall tents, and that's the way I like to camp, or I prefer that over hotel. Well, it rained Friday night, and Saturday night it cleared up, and before I left, I just prayed that they give me a sign before I leave, just so I know they were with me. And about 3 a.m, I woke up. Everything was still. Nothing was. No birds. No nothing. Just still. And all of a sudden, did it 3 times to let me know that, yeah, we're here. And then they left me a branch in my driver light on my truck, because I had to gas up while I was leaving. And I usually do a walk around, make sure there's no new damage. Well, the stick was just sticking right in my driver light on my lower bumper, and there's no way I could have hit it and broke it off. It would have damaged my bumper. It was just cleanly, and I knew that was a sign, like, see, they're glyphing me. And she said, really pay attention to everything around you, because they'll leave a clue or, a glyph or some kind of communication to let you know they were there. So I'll end with that, because that was the best. I'm looking forward to what's coming. Well, people ask me what I'm going to do when I do see one. I said, I'm hoping they give me a hug. They call the old bear hug. Like, I don't think that's going to happen.